And a good evening.
Hi, we're here.
We're
We'll eventually land on a good. We're here. Hello, everyone. Welcome. It is Thursday night, Generational Change. I'm Jen.
I'm Peter, and yeah, we are kind of getting back into the flow still.
Yeah.
We only have one light, but it's shining upon us as well as we can.
Well, no, we're it's a sad situation.
It's a sad situation.
It's a sad situation. We're in the process of I'm happy to say redoing some things. So we're gonna get some new furniture and get some stuff cleared out of here. And yeah, that's my husband's ice maker because he now has basically like a mini bar in here for his live stream. So
yeah, you know.
So now that we're having to share this space, we have to get this resituated.
Maybe
I'm like sitting here next to an ice
it
maker.
and turn it into something different, which could always be fun, as we know. Well, what he does is sell comic books.
Crime City Comics.
Crime City Comics, guys. Check that out on Instagram.
Crime City Comics on Instagram. But yeah, so he does auctions of comic books and takes up a lot of space.
So we don't have these shows too often, but tonight there is just so much bullshit going on that we can't possibly not talk about it. And who better to talk about the bullshit of our daily political lives, because there just can never seem to be a moment where we could talk about issues that actually matter, you know, because the drama just seems to fill the air all day, every day. This is going to be one of those rare shows where we actually do address a number of the commentators out there.
Okay, and again,
not for positive reasons. Yes. A lot of this is all related to what's going on between Israel and Palestine, although as we know it's a genocide, despite what some people would say. But remember, 99% of Hitler is not as bad as 100% of Hitler. Am I right? I mean, come on now. You know him as the host of Middle MAGA, Stuck in the Middle podcast, and Osiris is a friend of the show. He's always welcome, and he's back tonight. Welcome back to Generational Change.
It's been too long. What's good, Jen?
Hey.
It's been a minute. Peter, just want to say shout out, Jen. What a great campaign you ran out there in Florida. So happy for you. So proud of you. You had a little movement going. You know how hard that is to do.
Yeah, we're working on it. We're working on it. We're regrouping. You know, I'm going to keep what we're doing, but just not necessarily involved electorally. I think, and you know what, and not even that, just much more when we're dealing with our local and it's nonpartisan. That I feel like is an area that we have a lot more like that we could contribute to here. But just service in general. And I don't know, I really just like doing our podcast, quite honestly.
It's great. It's the podcast of the populist left for me. You have all these people on, a lot of people I don't know. I get introduced to them by you. Thanks for having me again. Appreciate you.
And I love the justice shirt.
Love
the justice shirt. Very cool. So you've got peace and justice. Very cool.
Yes. This is from a comic book creator made this shirt, but I use it to, that's what I'm about. We don't have that much in the U.S. right now, but that's what I'm about.
No, I believe that. And, where are you with what is going? I mean, I don't like any of these people, really. I mean, I like Dr. West, that's who I support is Dr. West. And he's actually on my ballot here. And I live in Florida, so it really doesn't matter. I mean, Trump is going to win Florida. It doesn't really matter what I do anyway. But, where are you in all of this? Like, because it's just, what a mess.
Yeah, we're 2024 is crazy, man. I am, last we talked, I think I was probably pro-Trump, I believe.
I don't know, but you know what though? Yes, but you were never gung-ho him.
No, I wasn't. And I'm one of the biggest anti-Trumpers out there.
Are you really?
I am a huge anti.
So what was the big switch for you? Like, what was the big turning point? Because to me, I've always thought of him as the same since the 80s. Like, my opinion of him really has not changed. So what was it that you switched?
The start of the switch happened on October 7th.
Oh, okay.
The tragedy that happened over there, and obviously is a tragedy, but the MAGA, the populist take, they don't call it a genocide. And I think that's a fundamental, moral stance that I was wrong. I was wrong about what MAGA was. The people who called it a cult were absolutely right. It's a cult that supports Trump, and ever since I've shifted, I've felt that pushback from, which is perfectly fine. But I've been going to war with the Trump people way more than the Democrats.
That's so interesting. So you're basically in the same position on your side that I am on my side. But so you understand how we spend most of our time dealing with Democrats, because you kind of have to clean your own house, so to speak, start where you are. But so what do you do in this election? Because, to me, and I never thought I'd be a single issue voter. Ever. I used to make fun of single issue voters, but I never thought genocide would be the issue that would be on the table, right? So that never occurred to me. And so now, where do people that wouldn't support Jill Stein or Dr. West, who do you go with?
I mean, I hate to be dark-pilled, pessimistic is how people view it. I don't view it this way, but I know people do. So that's why I couch my statements. This country is done. It's over. I mean, this is
in a bad way.
It's done. And it can come back, don't get me wrong, but we're in an era where it's wrapping up. I mean, the judicial system is just a mess. You have it in your thumbnail. Take on the indictments going on. And I like Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai. I don't know if you guys follow him at all.
Oh, he was on our show.
Was he?
Yeah.
Was that guy?
Yeah.
You don't like him?
No. Oh.
Well, here's the thing. Some of his ideas.
Osiris.
First of all.
Osiris.
The first thing I got to say about him, my friend.
You got to go watch the interview.
And you know me. I am the most anti-woke person you know.
Mm-hmm.
This guy was a total fucking chauvinist of the highest order. The way he talked to Jen was so obvious how he did not respect a woman's opinion at all. At all. It was off the charts.
I kid you not, Osiris, and you know that I have a wide range in my chat. You know I do.
Mm-hmm.
All of them. I mean, it was all of them were calling him a narcissist and he was a piece of work. I'm just saying.
I got some, even when I had him on mine, and I got a lot of the same feedback. And it was a learning opportunity for controlling an interview for me, because I just let him kind of go. Right. And I should have respectfully kind of. Yeah. At the end of the interview, I started kind of reeling him in on topics. Oh, he was outstanding. but you've got to reel him in. He is a firebrand.
Yeah,
and just real quick on him, he's so smart, and he's been so ostracized. He lashes out with it, and
he's bitter.
Yeah, he's bitter from it, and I understand why. But my feedback for him is, it can push people away if it's not effective. Then maybe, and don't make it about you. But I like his ideology is on point to me.
I think this is a good transition because obviously there's a lot of topics we want to cover tonight. A lot of shit is going on right now. And I hate when it's just so overloaded. It's like all these things coming in all at once. But the one thing I will push back regarding the MAGA movement is that I think on the one hand, you have the one big problem, which of course is you are fucked either way when it comes to Israel, Palestine, whether it is Harris or Trump, because both sides are completely bought off by the Israel lobby. When you think about the most powerful lobbies on Capitol Hill, you've got like your top 3 or 5 that basically circulate around: the Israel lobby, big oil, big pharma, maybe even the NRA. But they, with rare exception,
it's Israel lobby and the military-industrial complex.
That's it. Like that is what runs the show.
It is.
And I think it was very important because of all the people that we have seen that have attached themselves, especially when RFK was running, and how Rabbi Shmuley, as you have so eloquently put, Jen.
I cannot stand that man. He is so disgusting. I feel like I need to take a shower from watching him. He's so gross to me.
And you would think that in these circumstances that
he's an embarrassment to Jewish people. He really is.
And that's the thing. When we talk about what sparks anti-Semitism or raises the flames even higher, Rabbi Shmuley, you're not going to get anybody who's really going to raise the flames any higher. And while I fully believe 1,000% that Candace Owens is a grifter, full stop.
Right. Like this is sort of like where two things can be true.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, whatever her motivation is, whatever her lane is, whatever her angle is, maybe it's just the fact that she feels that there is a movement of anti-war Christian nationalism that's growing in this country, not from a violent perspective.
You do realize that she got fired for taking a stand
against Ben Shapiro. Yeah.
About Palestine.
Correct. That is true.
So for whatever else, that's, respectable. So clearly she's at least sane on this position.
And Candace, to her credit, I will say this, Candace has been very consistently anti-war. She is not an advocate for going into other countries and blowing them up. She's
not into regime change.
My line is, if you don't have the same take on Ukraine, Russia as you do on Israel, Palestine, then you're full of shit.
Then you're
either
wrong.
You've got the same take or you don't. And in this case, Candace does. We'll see what she had to say, as Piers Morgan seems to be making a habit out of hosting these little debates here.
October 7th, I don't think many people were engaged with what is happening in Israel. We kind of all said the same thing. Israel is our friend and ally. I count myself among those people. Post October 7th, the world, and especially I would say Zionists in media, were demanding that we all pay attention. And when we began to pay attention, we didn't like what we saw. You cannot tell me to ever feel comfortable with 18,000 children being ruthlessly murdered. You can't get me to feel comfortable as a Christian with the amount of more explosives dropped, tons of explosives dropped on Gaza than were dropped in Hiroshima. This doesn't make sense to me. Gaza is 30 miles long, 7 miles wide. It's incredibly dense population. And this is, by the way, according to Haaretz, that 40,000 Palestinians have been murdered. I believe they're getting those numbers from the Gaza Health Ministry. And here's what I would like to say to you, Rabbi, since you're quoting scripture, okay? The one that's relevant to me is, woe unto them that call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness. And if you'd like to dive into a little more scripture, I think what's relevant is Revelation 3:9. Behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews and are not, but do lie. And I'm speaking directly to you, Rabbi Shmuley. The fact
that takes a lot of balls.
But she's going to get called anti-Semitic for saying that. And because just by quoting Revelations, because the whole premise of Revelations is basically, so like he's sitting there laughing like, ha, we don't even believe that Bible anyway, as if his Bible is so much more, makes so much more sense. But, the fact is it's so anti-Semitic in the first place because the whole concept of Revelations is the Jews going to hell.
So 2 wrongs don't make a right. But she's absolutely correct about what this man represents and what he has done to further perpetuate not just the genocide, but anti-Semitism on the other side. Your thoughts on that?
Ooh, Candace I think there's a lot of Candace that's authentic here. And the thing is, she is such a good business person. And I'm just going to put myself into it. I am not. So I'm looking at Candace and I can see her progression where she's saying, I want to be more in the lane that I can go to sleep at night, but I still have to make money. That's why she talks with a clown like Rabbi Shmuley. Why talk? Who needs to talk to him?
Exactly.
But she knows he's a clown and she has personal beef with him and she knows it will get views. So she does it and she annihilates him. I mean, you can say what you want about Candace Owens. That is not somebody that you really want to debate unless you are a high-level debater. That's why Ben Shapiro ran from the debate. That's why Ben Shapiro didn't want to debate. He would have got destroyed by her. She is she's very good.
I totally would have debated her. I would have crushed her into 1,000 pieces.
I'll tell you what, in the past, when I've seen her, like when I saw her on Joe Rogan, I mean, she just was, she was good at the actual like presentation, but her facts weren't solid.
When she made her statement.
And that is something like, and this was a while ago. Okay. So, but what she's speaking now is truthful. So, she presents it really solid, but I am curious, and I know I'm going to want to vomit, but I am curious how he is going to respond to this.
Well,
he is a troll.
He is. We'll see what he has to say. I know it's not too long, and Colin, I don't know if this thing covers all of what Shmuley says, but we'll see what he has to respond to.
That you would try to say, I am Jewish, and this is what I believe, and do and say the things that you are doing. People can see and hear evil, and what you are doing right now is an act of evil. The lies that you are telling, not just on me, but also on my family members, are a good example for the world to see what we are referring to when we call something radical Zionism.
He went after her family?
Yeah. So they are, the Zionists are relentless in the way that they go after people. That's the other thing that you have to remember. And this is also the thing that ends up happening, like when Jen ran against Wasserman Schultz, it is obvious that they threaten people like they do. I've mentioned it on the podcast before, one that we know of for absolute certainty, who is a big fixture in a very working class area in the congressional district. The person was threatened with their livelihood, basically said, you fuck around and I will take away your ability to make a living. That's what Wasserman Schultz did. And this is exactly what the Zionist contingent led by the likes of Shmuley will do. They won't just go after Candace. They'll go after their family members. They'll say, it'd be unfortunate if we found something on you guys that might end up.
See if you can get her to come on the show.
Not a chance. Candace is too big for just about everybody at this point. I would try, but it's not likely to ever happen. And the way that they do it, Jimmy Zim Zam, is that they basically just tell you, hey, get out of line. This is going bye-bye. And they will not hesitate. That is the thing. And as I've been saying for a long time, the Zionists, they are going to win a lot.
I do like that she specifically said you. Because and so when they come for her and say that what she was saying was anti-Semitic, she really was specifically speaking to him.
Yes.
And that I appreciate that.
Yeah, Candace has been very careful with her narrowing down her criticisms to specific type of people, and she's not doing a broad scope.
Good.
The feedback that we're giving Candace from the other side is, if she's going to have a debate, do it with somebody who's serious. Now, maybe Rabbi Shmuley is really a smart dude, which I wouldn't be surprised. But, the actor, maybe that really is him that he portrays is just goofy. So there's not much substance there. That's why I don't even like listening to him that much, because she has substance. He doesn't really have that much. So I think she needs to talk with other people and have a more serious. She talked with comic Dave Smith. Talk with more people like that.
Yeah,
I definitely agree. I think that there are people that are on the political right, or whatever you want to call it. Honestly, I'm so tired of the labels. I mean, we've gotten to a point now where we really need to get as far away from it as we possibly can. Second that we make it exclusively about the issues is when the barriers really break down. I can agree even with our friend Nelson Ortega saying that she's a sellout to the Black community. Well, you know what? That may be true, but that doesn't take away from what she just said about Rabbi Shmuley being 1,000% correct.
Right. See, that's the thing where multiple things can be true. Yep. Two things can be true at once. And maybe if she stays in the lane of where she is now, where clearly she's speaking truth for her truth, like, and what, maybe that's just where she's supposed to be anyway, as opposed to just generally talking right-wing, politics and staying with the issue.
And she's also got a little bit of a martyrdom thing going on because of what happened with the Daily Wire. So I do think that she is given a certain degree of leeway, and maybe as a Black woman, she is taking advantage of that in a way that can actually help for a change. That isn't necessarily the direction that she's always taken. But she has been pretty firm on this, and this has always been my biggest concern, particularly with where things stand right now with the two major parties. I have a great deal of concern of where the Democratic Party has been moving for quite some time, especially when it comes to foreign policy. And when they are so giddy about the idea of Dick Cheney's daughter, because that's really how she should be referred to as, is out there endorsing Kamala Harris, and they think that that's a good thing.
Oh my God.
That's a good thing to announce.
Bragging about it.
They're so much more excited about the prospect of Liz Cheney endorsing them than somebody who would be considered influential on the left. Like a Rashida Tlaib. Of course, that's not going to happen because Rashida, unlike some others, actually has principles and will stand on that red line of genocide and say, I'm not supporting the president. And that's why, or the vice president who wants to be the president.
The problem is that they've all just been so co-opted by the military-industrial complex. So it's almost like there's no more people there are no Republicans that are not somehow with the Zionist lobby and the military-industrial complex, and maybe Thomas Massey is probably there's nobody else. And then there's very few Democrats. So we really need this sort of like populist party because most of the people are not with this.
No, and I think that that's a great transition. And Osiris, I'm sure you've seen this clip. This is something that Jen has not seen yet, but I unfortunately had
I don't know
the experience of having to listen to just a little bit of it today.
Oh my God.
This is an example of what has happened in what you would consider the left side of commentary in politics.
I really hate that you're doing this. I feel like I'm being put in a bad position.
Well, it's something that needs to be said because unfortunately Sam Cedar, who I don't think is a bad guy, but I personally do not like Emma Vigeland. She knows I don't like her. I had personal experience with her a number of years ago. I see right through her. She is a privileged white woman from the suburbs whose family is very close with Senator Gillibrand. And so
the opinions of Peter Hager do not necessarily reflect that of the show or of me.
Fair enough, but I do not pull any punches with her. I don't. I am very direct. I don't like how she threw Jordan Chariton under the bus for her career, which she 1,000% did. And so the commentary.
Well, you're naming names.
I don't.
Okay. All right. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, in this world, you're either black and white or you're bullshit. You make a choice. I don't have time for this. I have time to be very direct.
I just feel because I like Sam and he's been
Sam too.
He's been good to me.
So we had a caller call in about why they should not be supporting Vice President Harris for president, and this is what he had to say.
I look at Trump and I look at Harris. One of them is going to be president. That's just simply a fact. Jill Stein has no better chance of being president than I do. And someone can say, well, if you guys supported Jill Stein, other people might. Well, if people supported me too, I might be president. I mean, it's just not going to happen. And so the point is that is there a 1% chance that Harris is better than Trump on Israel? And if I'm going to vote, that's what I'm going to use my vote for. Is one vote ain't going to make a damn ass difference. But tiny. But it's going to, it's the exercise of one arrow that you have in your quiver of political power. And that's what a vote is. Mm-hmm. It's a hammer.
I think all that's granted. Everything about the Green Party, everything you said about voting.
But here's the thing. He is right. And that's what we've been saying for years. And he's not wrong. And in our duopoly, that is truth. We don't like it. And he's willing to vote against his conscience, but he's not wrong.
Oh, I didn't say that he's wrong.
Okay.
But this is also the problem that we have here, which is there is no defense of these attacks. It's kind of like what we addressed when, AOC decided to attack Jill Stein. It's like the only reason you're doing this is because you actually know that your position is untenable. And your reaction isn't to say the vice president must not be supported unless we end this genocide. It's let's attack anybody who may potentially be more attractive as a voting option than what's currently in front of us. It's not a question of whether Jill Stein can win. It's not even a question of whether the Green Party's a joke. It is. The point is people have the right to exercise their vote and vote however which way they want.
He's not saying that they're not. He really isn't. I don't know. Like, I feel like I don't agree with his position, but he's not. I don't know. I feel like I don't understand why you're on him for just expressing what is.
Because this is the same problem that's happening everywhere. There isn't this conversation that's happening that should be happening, which is simply this. You can say, look, I feel that it makes more sense to support Vice President Harris than to allow Trump to win. Okay, that's fine. But they have a tendency to chastise people who decide that I won't play a part of this anymore. I don't care what the results are. I cannot.
I didn't get that from him. I know what you're saying, but I'm not getting that from this. But okay, continue.
I think I get all that. What I'm maybe not feeling as a Palestinian American is permeating kind of through all the rhetoric right now is just sort of like the mood. I don't know. Maybe you described it as the emotion, but the mood and like what that mood sets for like the future. I mean, it's hard, right? It's not easy. But when Kamala Harris gets asked in an interview, like, will you change from Biden's policy on Gaza? And it's like, I think she just said no. It's like, I don't want to read into that too much, but she's seeing like a Trump, yard sign on someone's yard back in like 2016 or whatever, when he was talking about banning Muslims, like the emotion and the mood that evoked from her, saying like, oh, this person supporting someone who like literally hates me to my guts. Like, I'm telling you, Sam, and everyone else, like, as we drive through our streets in New Hampshire and see Harris Small signs, like, that's the same, like, it's that same sort of like disconnect there. Like, this politician in no way can represent me. And I guess what concerns me is Jill Stein is Jill Stein, but the reason Jill Stein is sort of anything right now is because mainly the position she's taken on Palestine and is probably attractive.
I mean, she had the same, listen, she's going to do the same numbers as she did in 2016.
And I believe that. I actually think my prediction is this is going to go exactly like 2016, except insert Kamala for Hillary. What do you think, Osiris?
Yeah, I'm done with that's what the same thing they're doing with Trump. They're saying, oh, you're not supporting Trump, so that means you're going to support Kamala or you're helping Kamala win.
Right.
I vote for something, and that I'm not voting against anybody. And if you don't give me a reason to vote for you, that's all the way down the ballot, all the way to local races, that I'm not voting for you. And I think people talk about the problems in our country a lot, but that is the crux of the problem, is that we funnel into this system where I can't really tell much difference between Kamala and Trump, to be honest with you. There's not much difference between them.
No, in fact, when you were talking before about how you found MAGA to be a cult, that's the Democrats. It's a cult. And it's scary. And when I was looking at
vote blue, no matter who's.
Well, just not even that. But I just saw today that the Muslim women are still going to endorse Kamala. The ones that were, I guess, in the party, that after all of that, they're going to go ahead and just go with her.
The ones that were going to go to the DNC?
Yeah, the ones that are in the ones that are in the party infrastructure, like the group of delegates that were standing up and like, so at the end of the day, they just fall in line with the party. Wow. And I know that for a lot of them, it's because they recognize what Sam is in fact saying, which is true, that the duopoly is such that we are getting one of those two people. Like, that's just the reality. Okay. So, acknowledging that is, to me, not unwarranted. Like, we should acknowledge that's the reality. I am not supporting that any longer because it is a cult, and they both, honestly, they need to be put down like rabid animals.
Yeah, that's where
both of those cults, seriously.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going against the MAGA cult. I'm calling them neo-MAGA cons. I think the other part is that we've got to figure out a way. RFK joined with Trump, and there's things to like about RFK. There's a lot not to like. Same with Trump, but the thing that I didn't like, just analyzing them coming together, is it wasn't clear to me. The guy who wrote the real Anthony Fauci joined the guy who supported the real Anthony Fauci. And I'm like, you're not going to address that elephant in the room? So the reason I bring that up is we've got to kind of find a way for the dissidents to work together, even though we have these things we disagree with. Like Trump and RFK came together, but under like some type of belief. They just came together because I got a big name, you got a big name. Let's just use our big name. There's no mantra there. There's no belief there. There's no philosophy. We got to come together under something.
Not for Trump. I do believe that RFK's issues, his, like the idea that he is seeking a cabinet position for health and human services and would want to be overseeing things like the CDC and the NIH and in what his key mission is in his issues, health and nutrition and all of that stuff, that does make sense. However, the hypocrisy, like what you're saying about that this is the same person that was with like the whole Dr. Fauci fiasco, and it's just so absurd now. But because I think Trump doesn't have an ideology, let's say he did appoint RFK to that, and let's say he did appoint Tulsi Secretary of State. Those are decent appointments. Like those are decent appointments. I don't think that, to me, I feel like if Kamala wins, you're going to just have whatever Wall Street lobbyist, big pharma.
Dick Cheney, basically.
Yeah. Well, yeah, probably appoint Liz Cheney to something.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So, and at the end of the day, what Kamala represents is potentially 8+ more years of Clintonism. And Clintonism is what got us into this mess in the first place.
The one angle that I don't think enough people are talking about, which I do think is going to play a role in the outcome of the election, is the fact that Kamala basically has been given the keys to the kingdom and she didn't earn it. And who is specifically looking at this from a career perspective that is going to think long and hard about how hard they really want to try to push her over the finish line, knowing that even if Trump wins, there will be a massive political realignment in this country that will transpire going into 2028. Now, that may happen even if Harris wins. But
I don't think so.
Likely if that were to happen in the Democratic Party. But if Harris were to lose, you're looking at Gavin Newsom, you're looking at Gretchen Whitmer, you're looking at Jamie Pritzker, you're looking at but here's I've pointed to this: Andy Bashir, Josh Shapiro. You have all of these. And of course, last but not least, you have Buttigieg.
Bashir is the least offensive.
Yeah.
Who is?
Bashir, to me, is the least offensive of that list.
But these are all people that are looking at, from a career perspective, of we will be finished politically if Kamala gets in. Because one way or the other, she's either going to get 2 terms or the GOP is going to get 1, and we're out of the potential running to be president for at least 8, if not 12 years. Anyone who is politically minded, who did not see there was no primary. I mean, let's just be honest. The Democratic Party has rigged the primary process for the last 3 presidential elections.
For the last 3 cycles.
And it's only going to get worse because, unfortunately, as their base continues to shrink, the people who stay are even more cult-minded than the MAGA people, because you see people like Candace Owens who are considered Trump adjacent, but they are very firm on certain issues that Trump isn't. And so to me, everything is lockstep in the Democratic establishment. You saw how they conducted themselves in Chicago. Oh, roll, joy, everything's all this and that, while the genocide's being taken place and all the other things that's happening. And so to me, I see the narcissism of the people that I just mentioned. It's going to be too great for them to look at somebody like Kamala, who didn't get a single vote before she literally gets to the front of the line, and is going to be like, yeah, I ain't playing that shit.
Well, I just honestly, I don't see it. I really think we're having a replay of 2016, and I hope we are.
And as much as I do think that there are positives to Governor Wolf, no 2 ways about it, you're telling me that Governor Shapiro does not have an axe to grind in Pennsylvania against Harris? He's done nothing for her since she's announced. And the closer this election gets, the more I'm convinced it's probably going to come down to Pennsylvania. And if Trump wins Pennsylvania, the election's over.
Well, because yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. That's a crazy situation when she could have chose him to help her in Pennsylvania.
But that would have been the only place it would have helped her.
Yeah.
But it could have hurt her and other, like, he's horrible.
He is.
Yeah.
He's horrible.
Oh, yeah.
Because Walz actually did bring in a good amount of attention that was positive.
And
now they're trying to tear him up and find all these things and go after him. And I don't play into any of that. And someone who I respect, which is Jesse Ventura, obviously has a lot of respect for Tim Walz. And so I have to recognize that. And he did a lot of stuff I don't appreciate after what happened with George Floyd and whatever. But this is a repeat. And while I am not a Trump supporter, I think we are better off with 4 more years of him than 8 to 12 potential more years of Clintonism, which is, again, I think infinitely worse.
And the other thing that
why are you laughing, Osiris?
Peter, if I would have told you in 2024 that Jen would be more pro-Trump than I am, what would you have said? 2024 is off the chain,
I am not pro-Trump.
Well, hold on a minute.
No, you're more pro-Trump than me, though.
No, I'm just more anti-Kamala.
No, you're more Trump.
I am more anti-Kamala. That's it. Like, she discussed me because, oh my God, no, because she, to me, this is my issue really with Kamala, and that I have known for many years that she is a Hillary person. She is a Hillary symbiote, whatever you want to call it, like a puppet, whatever it is. And I loathe Hillary Clinton. And I would not vote for Hillary Clinton. There is no universe. And so when I look at Kamala, if you were to rip off the Kamala mask like Scooby-Doo, it would be Hillary.
Yep.
And so that is why. And I felt the same way in 16. I told the people back in 15, my friends, people I knew, I'm like, you need to get behind Bernie because you're getting him or Trump. And we've talked about this and they didn't. And I'm like, because there is no universe where Hillary is going to win. And I feel the same way about Kamala. And as we get closer and people start seeing her more and more, she's only going down.
Yep.
Only down. It's the only direction for her to go. And Trump is stagnant.
The other problem that no one is, again, talking about, which I really wish they would, is that if Trump gets in, all of a sudden, all of these Johnny-come-lately privileged liberals will care about what's happening to the Palestinians.
Yes, then they'll blame him.
They'll say, oh my God, they're doing a genocide, and it's all Trump's fault.
He facilitates the revolution from the otherwise, like, kind of complacent left. Liberals, I hate using, because I don't even know what's what, but like, you know who I'm talking about, the brunch crowd.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, that is the level for them. It's the end all be all of that comfort. But I can't really decide at this point what is going to sink this country further, depending on who gets in there. I just think that Trump getting in again would be a massive wake up call to how broken things really are. Even though they have thrown the entire kitchen sink at him to prevent him from getting in, even though he could have played this so much differently. But again, he's a class A narcissist. This is all about vanity. He doesn't actually care. I wish more people would understand that.
He couldn't care less. But he's smart enough to know that he doesn't need to attack Kamala.
No.
He doesn't need to do. She is going to implode all on her own. He doesn't need to do anything.
A lot of it is going to ride on this debate next Tuesday. I really believe that.
That's going to be interesting.
Yeah. If she face plants even once, it's going to rock the entire campaign because they're not going to be able to sweep it under the rug. They have been hardline negotiating to make sure that she is completely in her own element that has nothing to do with what would be considered normal debate, context as far as standing up and not having notes in front of me. She wants to sit down like this is a VP conversation and needs note cards.
Well,
this person's running to be the leader of the free world.
She can't go off script. Have you noticed that, by the way, Osiris?
Yeah, I think she's making mistakes. She should want to stand up. She needs to look presidential. That's one of the biggest problems that she has is, do you look at her as a commander in chief? And I think she doesn't need to be. She needs to be sitting. She needs to be standing up.
Yeah.
And
I don't even look at her as a competent litigator.
Yeah.
Oh, commander in chief is off the wall to me. Like the whole thing is just, this is this is ridiculous. This is a Hillary Clinton thing to get this woman in office. And the only way they were able to do it is to just completely circumvent a primary. They knew this. This was always the plan.
Yeah, this was the meeting in the Hamptons in the summer of 2017. It's like, okay, you're up.
Kamala.
And that's what they do. And the scary thing is that people are really neglecting the fact, and I've been saying it all along, we need an independent movement in this country that is led by labor. That is the only way out of this. There is no other way because both parties are corporate bought. And the Democratic Party is getting worse than the Republican Party in a number of areas that is very dangerous, especially when it comes to civil liberties. They are all about censorship, unless it's Israel, then they're both on it. Even the you still have that conservative side of the party that's even worse on the GOP side. And then, of course, foreign policy. The Democratic Party has rolled out the red carpet for all of the neocons from the GOP, whether that is Bill Kristol, whether that is Anna Navarro, whether that is Liz Cheney, David Frum. They're all there. They're all, again, they don't even think twice about it. You never see that happen on the GOP side. You never see these Democratic Party defectors that all of a sudden go over to the GOP and then they're already at the front of the line. The only person that has happened with is Tulsi Gabbard, which, as far as I can tell, if you're really being honest, Tulsi Gabbard is an exceptional politician. Exceptional. She's not a fly-by-night person. In fact, I am convinced beyond any doubt that win or lose, she is most likely going to be the GOP nominee in 28. I'm actually pretty convinced of that at this point.
That's the strategy.
Because she's really got it.
What are your thoughts on her? Have we talked about, I mean, I think we've probably talked about Tulsi before.
I think her take on, if I remember correctly, I soured on her over Israel. I mean, I like her a lot.
Wrong about Israel.
Yeah,
but the thing about her is, at the end of the day, her position on war is directly correlated to the skin tone of the people on the receiving end of the war. And those that are Arabic, people that are Islamic. She has a major Islamophobia. And so somehow that changes her position on what are wars for profit.
Which, unfortunately, in Indian culture, there is a streak of that depending on where they're from. Like, that's a thing.
Yeah,
That is a thing.
Yeah.
And I think the best way to crystallize this conversation is for people to understand just how serious this issue of what's going on in Gaza right now. And we have pointed this out time and again. There is no conspiracy here. There is $500 billion worth of natural gas under Gaza soil and 25 miles of Mediterranean waterfront real estate development waiting for the oligarchs to take over, which will equal ultimately at least $1 trillion plus in profits that the people that really run the show are going to be able to do in the process of murdering probably 2 million people.
And the truth is, a lot of them, that is their plan. Like, that's their goal.
For these
didn't Jared Kushner openly talked about it
at Harvard? He did.
What did he say?
He said that looks like some really nice waterfront property that could be developed in there. And he ain't hiding that. And here
so gross.
Is why
that's beyond politics to me. It's not even a political take. I mean, it's just the morality of the situation. I'm not in the same place I was in the 90s where, we were bombing people and doing all kinds of stuff and nobody knew or didn't really follow or care. We can all see it now. That's why they want to ban TikTok and going after different companies, Telegram and all this, because we can see them doing it.
Look what they just did in Brazil.
Wait, Brazil, so are you saying the MAGA crowd are like just cool with the genocide situation?
Absolutely. Yes, they're 100% cool with it.
I don't know if I don't get that vibe. I think it depends
a lot of
on
them
what section.
I think a lot of the people that you have there are Christian evangelicals.
Now that's the problem. That's the problem.
And unfortunately, that is a big part of
they're as strong or stronger than any. I mean, I don't know. I want to say that, but they're very strong. It's like they're almost just straight up like a regular Zionist.
Well, that's always been, and this is the sin of the GOP that Reagan decided to take on, and it's never changed. They welcomed the evangelical right into the party. That used to be a much bigger fixture in the Democratic Party. Don't forget how popular that was and one of the reasons why Jimmy Carter won in '76. But a lot of that changed, and it really has only gotten worse because the fanaticism within the religious right has only grown exponentially because a lot of these guys figured out how to grift at the highest levels. We've seen all of these guys. So there's a bunch of Joel Osteens and Pat Robertsons out there, and they are the ones that really make up. This is the thing, because our country only sees it from, in many ways, the Jewish perspective when it comes to Zionism, because the Jews tend to be in the big cityscapes of this country, whereas the Christian evangelical Zionists are in the heartland, in the South,
they are
and
more
in the upper Midwest. You don't see it that often, but they're there. You better believe that they're there.
It's true.
And this, in my opinion, this statement that was made, I don't know this guy's name.
Are you showing that podcast?
I don't give a fuck
that
what his name is.
Was it that two?
The
yeah,
two Jewish.
I saw it. Ooh, that was crazy.
The two nice Jewish boys.
Oh, they are getting annihilated.
As far as I'm concerned, this is like, for me, this is street justice that I would call for with these two guys.
They'll get what's coming to them.
This is the Zionist ideology. This is Rabbi Shmuley's ideology. This is it.
And quite honestly, like, these are people like that. I mean, I don't know these guys, but they could just as well be people that I grew up with.
They speak for the Zionist genocidal ideology, full stop.
Here
no one actually gives a shit. Zero people in Israel, if you go up to them and you're like, do you care if this baby in Gaza gets polio? They'll be like, I don't fucking just listeners. But seriously, this is how Israelis feel. And you might think that Eitan Weinstein and Naor, who like refuses to kind of back me up on it publicly.
I'm from the UN.
Yeah, he's the UN. But you might think I'm extreme. But I have conversations with lots of people, coworkers, friends. People enjoy knowing that they are suffering.
Look at that, baby.
Colin, where is the full clip, man? Come on.
What? No, this is interesting with the juxtaposition, because I don't even.
Colin, we need the clip of him saying specifically that we are fully on board with the genocide and we cannot wait to kill them all.
Well, no, he says that if he could get rid of them all by pushing a button, he would do it right now.
Yes. So we need to get that clip. And yes, two nice Jewish guys can openly say we celebrate death of Gazans, but all I hear about is anti-Semitism on campuses. And this is the crux of it right now.
Metal, get used to it.
Yeah.
Get used to it, man, because this is honestly, there's a genocide happening. So yes, that's the priority right now.
But see, the thing is, it doesn't matter if Kamala or Trump wins, that we're still on that same path there.
Correct.
1,000%. Thank you, Donald James. Too many good shows all at once. I choose to stay here.
Thank you.
Hey, listen, like we say, we're a small but mighty channel.
And the truth is that you can always come back and watch us and comment when you do. So I don't, it's nice to have live, but whatever, you guys get what you can when you can. That's just all there is to it.
All right. So here's the rest of the clip of the two nice Jewish boys.
I can't with these
about
boys.
How proud they are of being genocidal maniacs.
I hope they get annihilated.
It's because we're looking for international legitimacy. Mm-hmm. No one actually gives a shit. Zero people in Israel, if you go up to them and you're like, do you care if this baby in Gaza gets polio? They'll be like, I don't fucking just.
If Oppenheimer would care.
Yeah, okay. There'll be like 20 people who care, and they're all wearing Meretz shirts. Like, fuck them.
All right, what does that mean?
I'm not sure, but it's probably
is that something about like being Hasidic, and the Hasidics are completely against the genocide.
It could be. I know.
Yeah, it's something to do with whatever partisan or political, whatever party they're talking about, or whatever he's saying, or peaceniks or refuseniks or whatever. Just talking probably about their real leftists. Well,
like you said,
because there are people that are fighting over there. There are.
Oh, yeah.
Well, but you've said time and again that they are. It's all about dehumanization.
Yeah, no, they're so far gone. These people are too far gone. Yeah. This thing needs to be cut off like a boil.
But seriously, nobody would give a shit. They'd be like, leave me alone, man. I'm trying to buy shit for Shabbat. Fuck off. I don't care about this Gazan kid with polio.
Also, as long as they're in their Nakba state in their tents, and we are living still, if you put aside the news, day to day is okay. Yesterday we went to a concert.
Yeah.
In Elkon Park, We had lots of fun, me and my girlfriend. Shalom Chanoch. We danced, and it was amazing. And you can't help but think, like, it's nice to know that you're dancing in a concert while hundreds of thousands of Gazans are,
homeless,
like sitting in a tent and eating.
Makes it even better.
Yeah,
more enjoyable concert. If only they put the
live video
footage of Gaza. Like, but seriously, you guys, like that. That's what people don't understand. Look, like, I know that you guys might be appalled by this, some of the listeners, but seriously, this is how Israelis feel. And you might think that
and you know what? Wait, stop it.
And
I appreciate this, actually.
So do I.
Because first of all, I've always said this. I love to know who my bigots are.
I agree.
I love to know I am all for it. Have all the hate speech you want. Say whatever you want. I don't care. I love to know who these people are. But it's like, this is only helping their downfall. This is facilitating their own downfall. They are just, so I like it.
Yeah, no, listen, you would much rather, listen, if somebody doesn't like you because you're black, you would rather they say it to your face than say it behind your back, making you think that they actually give a shit about you. I have always felt that the transparency of, and again, it's all about the unknown. It's all about the tribalism of human nature. This goes back 100,000 years. People like to pretend that they can manipulate. This is the thing about liberals, is they think they can manipulate human nature. You can't do it. What you can do is have consequences for the people who take it too far. And unfortunately, Israel is a very rich and powerful country, and it is our outpost in the Middle East.
But the only reason they can talk like this is because of us.
Correct.
Of course,
we're the ones
absolutely.
we're the ones that have them out there with their chest out, laughing about innocent women and children being eliminated because of us. So that's the problem I have. If we weren't really involved, there's a lot of stuff going on around the whole world.
True. That's true.
And not only that, if you speak out against it, then you can get ostracized here in America. So it's really risen to one of the top issues in my mind.
Which is why I feel the need to triple down on it, because the fact that people are losing their jobs. Mm-hmm. And I found out that a journalism professor at Northwestern. But I went to Northwestern Medill School of Journalism for graduate school. So I'm actually an alumni of the J School. And I actually know the dean. You met him, yes. Charles Whitaker. Mm-hmm. And I've been to alumni events. And I just found out that the Medill School of Journalism at Northwestern University has suspended a journalism professor that specializes in like social ethics and moral, like he's the social justice section of this. And they've suspended him for standing up for students at the encampment for Palestine.
Wow.
My journalism school suspended a journalism professor.
That's great.
A social justice journalism professor for speaking up for Palestine.
Now keep in mind, Northwestern is right around the corner from Skokie, which is one of the biggest Zionist Jewish communities in the entire country.
It's true, but when the president of Northwestern was sitting before the committee, and they were really, and what's his name, the douchebag congressman from Indiana was like giving him a really hard time about all
douchebag congressman from Indiana will do.
Whatever, was giving him a hard time. I actually was pleased with the way the Northwestern president held his own and was sort of like not getting into discussing what his faculty, what he was planning on doing internal. Like he was being good about it. And yet they suspended this guy without due process, mind you.
They don't play. You put yourself in danger. Like your whole campaign was courageous. I think a lot of people are choosing to take the safe route because they do not play.
But I feel that's what makes me feel even more incensed. Like that's what just makes me want to double down more. Wait till I'm going to start harping on Northwestern, and I do plan on sending an email to Dean Whitaker because as an alum, I find this despicable.
And I was just going to say, because I've been meaning to put this out there, if there is a person in left media that is Jen's spirit animal, it's Tim Black. 100%.
Loved him. I watched him every day. Like I loved him. And the thing is that he really does not
He's principled. He is 1,000% saying, so I don't give a fuck. I'm being direct about this.
He doesn't want to really interact with other content creators. And I understand that. Like, I'd love for him to come on. He came on once for like my birthday one time. For my 50th birthday, he came on. But no, I have a lot of respect for Tim Black.
No, and he is the genuine article. And
you follow Tim at all, Osiris?
Yeah, Tim was one of the first guys after like Nico House and them that I started following. We had a disagreement. I forget what it was way back. This is like 2021, and he blocked me. So, but I listened to him still. He's good. He's good.
Yeah.
But let's finish this out because it's important to note
these two
that it really just goes over the line.
Refuses to kind of back me up on it publicly.
I'm from the UN.
Yeah, he's the UN. But you might think I'm extreme. But I have conversations with lots of people, coworkers, friends. People enjoy knowing that they are suffering.
No, also it's very prominent on Twitter.
Metal, you're driving me insane. I don't have disdain for Christians. I have disdain for Zionists. I specifically said Christian Zionists. Why is he not listening?
This is the type of
I do. And first of all, disdain is with a D, not a T. But seriously, man, I don't have that for Christians. I have no beef with Christians. I have beef with Zionists.
Come on, man. You're conservative. Get out of your feelings.
Seriously.
Remember, facts don't care about your feelings.
I have been incredibly consistent on this. I myself am an atheist. I am not big on any religion. I generally don't like how they're wielded.
Anyway, that is not anyway. And again, I don't fault Colin for this. It is what it is. But that was not the clip that we needed. We needed the clip specifically him saying, I want to blow all the Palestinians to smithereens.
Yes. And guys, go fight. Yeah, we don't need another clip of this. I can't watch those guys anymore.
They tried to walk it back too.
Bullshit.
They did.
Say what you really mean. He absolutely means
I know.
Absolutely means it.
And it is indicative of the majority of Israelis. Like, people need to understand that this isn't a niche thing. Yes, they might hate Netanyahu. They very well might hate Netanyahu, and they want to get rid of him for whatever.
That's a complete. Yeah, that's a different topic. And Trump, people get convoluted with that, where people say, "Well, I don't like Net." That's not the issue.
No. Not only is that not the issue, the people that are there that are really pulling the strings are just as bad, if not worse.
Oh yeah.
And it doesn't matter who's there, but the fact that we were watching the Knesset members literally debating. Literally, whether or not it was okay to rape Palestinian prisoners. They were actually having this debate in the Knesset.
Yeah.
This country is they're too far gone. They're too far gone. They need to be put down like a rabid dog at this point.
What they don't
this is absurd.
What the Israelis don't understand, and this is because they are as privileged a class of people as you will ever see, which is why dropping bombs on Palestinians is perfectly acceptable, but basically being protested on college campuses means they're not safe. That is a level of privilege that is on a whole other level of narcissism, neuroticism, all of the negative stereotypes that basically permeate in the Jewish community.
I know a lot of these people. I mean, not personally, but you know what I mean? These are people that really do not understand the distinction between not liking what you're hearing and feeling unsafe. And those are a very big, these are people that have never had to listen to things that they don't like. But I actually do believe that that's not what's going on. Just like I think Kamala doesn't have real supporters. When all of these older people are saying that students don't feel safe on campus, but I haven't heard students say that. I have not seen firsthand accounts. I have asked if people have any, please show me. I have heard people talk about secondhand, oh, well, I was at a thing where the students were saying they felt unsafe. I have yet to hear a firsthand account of a student say and give a context as to how and why and when they felt unsafe. So I haven't heard that. Yeah. Have you?
No, I've not. Like from an anecdotal standpoint, it's all coming from your pundits, your politicians, and it seems astroturf to me, but I can't say one way or the other, but I haven't seen anything from that. No.
And I have been to protests. I haven't been to a campus encampment, but I've been to enough of the Free Palestine movement protests that I know that they're incredibly peaceful. I know that. I know that with firsthand experience, without a doubt, I don't even question it. And I know that Zionists and police tend to be very violent in those situations. So it's sort of one of those Occam's razor thing. What's more likely? That the people that are sitting there like wanting peace are the violent people, or the angry Zionists are coming in and being supported by the police to do so, just like they are in the West Bank.
And the one
Same thing.
And the one thing I would say to Metal and anybody who is a Trump supporter, he took $100 million from Miriam Adelson.
I mean, come on.
He's one of the biggest advocates for moving the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem.
That was a problem.
And if you think that did not cause more strife, I don't know what you're looking at.
The guy who they were yelling, "Drain the swamp" in 2016. Fast forward, 100 million. That's just one. I mean, he's got all kinds of problematic pro-swamp type moves.
Yeah.
Do you think this country is ready for somebody to run for federal office as an independent, but with an actual campaign? Like not like a Jill Stein type situation. I'm talking running outside of the two-party system.
Well, RFK could have done it, except for the fact that he wasn't really giving.
He was frozen out. Well, they did it all on purpose. The timing worked so perfectly for them. They didn't want his challenge. No. So that's why I think that was a major reason.
He doesn't really have, but the truth is that other than really, he does speak truth to power in a few areas, and I do appreciate that about him. But in terms of, he's part of that system. He's part of he would have run as a Democrat. He would have been a Democrat. So he's really not different. So when he says independent, we're talking about somebody who actually thinks independent, the
country is ready for a true, and I agree with you on RFK, he's not a real independent, but the country's ready for it. But the problem is it's hard to get the momentum for it. But when Bernie rose up, he was an independent that had to run as a Democrat. I think it's more likely that the independent infiltrates MAGA or infiltrates the Dems. That's very hard to do. But the country's ready for it, but you can't even get ballot access.
Right.
They were talking, it's just millions of dollars of just a huge kind of push just to get on the ballot every state.
I'm talking about for like a U.S. Congress seat.
Oh.
I'm talking about.
Okay.
It's very dependent on the district, I think.
Yeah, I'm not as knowledgeable there. That's a good question. I think the country's ready for that, but the problem is, how do you do it? Online's all curated. It's hard to get the TV time. The press. Do we have any precedent for it? Do we have any precedent for an independent doing?
Not really.
Yeah,
no,
that's why.
At some point, you have to be willing to make that sacrifice. And I do think that there is a place for it. I think that you can, again, the whole foundation of using independent media is about exposure and maybe raising some money. That's about it. Now, you can probably find some volunteers. You could find people who really want to be outside the two-party system.
But the bigger problem is that, let's say an independent does get into Congress. Then what?
Yeah, no, they're just by themselves.
Yeah,
well,
it's like then there's nothing
yes,
to do.
They are by themselves, but it all depends on, again, is anybody really willing to try and rock the boat the way that AOC said that she was going to when she got in? Because in a way, she really did get in as an independent. She was a Democrat, but I
was an AOC supporter.
Yeah, she only won with 15,000 votes, and she had
now look at her.
Heaven and earth moving to get her in there. And now all of a sudden she's reduced herself to being an actual attack dog for the Democratic establishment, which is so, that's like when you talk about really crossing the line.
Embarrassing.
Yeah.
You saw that where she called time predatory.
Oh yeah. Just disgusting.
Absolutely.
That type of thing doesn't lend into this idea that anybody really wants to be within the system anymore, which in a way is a good thing, because anything that is going to push a direction that is away from the completely corporate controlled system, I think, is what is going to attract the most amount of people. Now, the question is, what is it going to take? The consensus number to run for Congress and to be viable is $1 million. Now, of course, no one's handing out $1 million. You would have to raise that with a multitude of different people. But I do believe that if that was possible, and the right candidate was running, I think it could shake things up, because I think more people would be inspired to want to get involved in that capacity that has nothing to do with the red versus blue bullshit. Because I think there is enough people in the country now that are past it. I mean, listen, 51% of registered voters are independents. So we now have a majority that say, oh, I'm not part of this two-party
No, the
bullshit.
problem is that the parties own the mechanism of the electoral process. Yep. So even though we have the majority of people that are maybe not affiliated, they still own the electoral process. I actually am at the point where I think that like electoral politics, like for me, it's it's dead. Like I think it's a complete waste of time.
I think it still has merit, but it can't be done by itself. You cannot. There's a gentleman who's running, Dan Osborne. He's running for Senate in Nebraska right now as an independent, and he's actually doing a pretty good job. Now, he's definitely conservative, but he's super pro-labor. In fact, I think he's part of the pipe fitters union, if I'm not mistaken. I look at a guy like that and I think, yeah, I would put him in Congress. Why not? Because at least there is something outside of the norm. And if we are willing to consider those prospects, that's when I think we could be heading in the right direction. I don't know if we're there yet, but like I said, somebody's got to try. Why the hell not?
Yeah, I think it would have to be some type of organized push. It would have to be branded somehow, like as a kind of nationwide movement where people, I mean, I'm as bad as this as anybody, following national politics a lot. And then like, oh, wait, what's going on locally? And I think that's how the Tea Party rose up. No matter what you feel about them, they rose up, and then MAGA rose up. And I think even if you're not going to kind of infiltrate one of the majors, you still have to rise up nationally as a group. I think we need to get people at the table, you at the table, the Steve Bannons at the table, and he would be open to that. Get those type of people, like people at the table, to talk about, well, what can we do together? That's what they're really afraid of. They're not afraid of us being separate and all this other stuff.
No.
Yeah.
Well, because at the end of the day, they are all the same. Mm-hmm. They're all the same. The people that control the electoral mechanism, they're all on the same team. It's like professional wrestling.
Well, that's why they all protect each other. That's why Wasserman Schultz feels at home with people like Mario Diaz-Balart. It's a small club, and you're not invited.
I will tell you, you want to know if there's an opportunity for an independent to win a congressional seat, then get behind Jose Vega to take out Richie Torres.
Yeah.
You might know him from a lot of viral videos, man. A lot of courage with them. And he's a very interesting dude.
No, we know Jose. We've had him on.
You guys know. I'm just saying anybody who might not. Yeah, I know.
Oh,
you guys
yeah.
know.
Jose's great. But he's running as an independent against Richie Torres.
Yep.
And that is a race that if anybody wants to get behind an independent to do that it would be to me, because Richie Torres is disgusting.
Now, the one thing I will say, I do not see bad, but here's the problem that ends up happening in left politics.
It's hard for me to not agree with the dog, though.
Well, sure, but that kind of looks like Sophie. There's a Sophie look to that.
That's
maybe it's a combination.
But can I ask why? What is?
I don't know.
Bannon?
Because the problem with Steve Bannon is that he also has a checkered
They
record.
all do. They all do.
And here's my point. I don't think that there's anything wrong with, for example, Sean O'Brien speaking at the RNC.
Of course not.
There are people who actually have a problem with him speaking there. And if you listen to his
cult-like.
See, that's cult-like. Mm-hmm. And that, to me, is a huge problem, because the Teamsters, there is a significant portion of that union that supports Trump. So you have to be able to speak on both sides. And as far as I'm concerned, and yes,
Bannon definitely has, there's pros and cons. I mean, 100%. And there's a lot of story there. There's a lot of baggage there, but to not discuss things with people is so unbelievably unproductive. It just doesn't make any sense. So there's I wouldn't talk to someone like Rabbi Shmuley because
there's no there.
There's no there. There's no point. There's no power. There's no anything. And there's no reason to. So it isn't just, I don't agree with him. It's because that's a waste of time. I can talk with people I don't agree with for productive purposes. That's a whole different story. So I don't know why people just get on their thing.
You got to get out of your own way, because at the end of the day, this is about labor. It really is. Like, there are going to be people that you're going to have to break bread with that do not accept the trans community. And if that is a deal breaker for you, then you're going to be the one left on the outside, because ultimately the way that you deal with people who don't accept the trans community is you fix the two biggest issues we have in this country. You don't have healthcare and you don't have a living wage. And the second you fix those two problems is the second people care less and less about the ancillary social issues, which always get pushed to the front because they always divide everybody.
Absolutely. We're not talking about it enough. We're talking about all this other stuff. Trump talking about decriminalizing marijuana. That's not a top issue in the country right now. We got too many big things to worry about.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. And it's a state issue. I mean, I get what he's saying, and so good. That's nice. Support it. It's on our ballot here. We're happy to hear you vote for it. That's good. Thank you.
And here's
people can't afford to make ends meet. We're not. They can't afford the cannabis.
Florida Dems really are a club. Voting to change things is a impossible outcome.
It is, and it's not worth it.
And here's what's amazing: Trump came out in support of Amendment 3. The idea that cannabis legalization is going to pass in Florida because of conservatives that tells you everything you need to know.
Well, we were able to get the $15 minimum wage the year that he won.
Of course.
So, this doesn't surprise me. I honestly, the fact is that if people can't get a living wage and if they don't have healthcare, they can't afford the cannabis.
Correct. And then they're going to look for other people to point the finger at and say, well, you're the reason why I can't have it.
We want, trust me when I tell you, we want the legalized cannabis. I have my reason. Everyone has their reasons, whatever. That's great.
Yeah, I'm for it, but
but it's just not our. We need. There's a genocide happening, and people can't afford a $400 emergency. We're having a situation here.
Last thing before you go, obviously we have to talk about this.
What are we talking? What is
content creators are faced with this whole thing. We know about Putin trolling the U.S. presidential race with endorsement of Kamala Harris.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but at the same time. Colin, could you please pull up an article regarding what had happened to the U.S. conservative influencers? Say they are victims of Russian disinformation campaign. Tim Pool, Dave Rubin, and Benny Johnson, all very prominent right commentators. Sorry, Tim, but you can say you're not.
He goes that direction, yeah.
Addressed allegations that a company they were associated with had been paid to publish videos with messages in favor of Russia. Now, how much of that is actually correct?
But wait a second. But here's my question for you. So?
Yeah, I say the same thing. Now, of course, the issue here is this lady, Lauren Chen, who apparently was being the front person for RT, evidently, that was giving them like $10 million to promote this tenant media channel. A number of high-profile conservative influencers in the U.S. have said they are victims of an alleged Russian disinformation campaign after the Biden administration accused Moscow of carrying out a sustained campaign to influence the outcome of November's presidential. They are never going to give up on Russia.
Oh my God.
Can't do it because there are too many people that buy into it.
Oh my God. It's so old. It's so old. You know what? Like Osiris, it's boring, right?
Yeah, but I was very disappointed in Tim's reaction to this yesterday. He was very kind of trying to, but it's a lot. So he's dealing with a lot. So don't get me wrong. I understand that.
I guess I'm not completely understanding this. How are they victims?
They were associated with what had been proven with nearly 10 million from Russian state media employees to publish videos with messages in favor of Moscow's interests and agenda, including so basically what this is they are channels that were not promoting the war in Ukraine in favor of Ukraine. That's what it seems like to me.
But so what are they saying they're victims of?
I could break. Yeah, I read I'm doing a lot of prep on this one. So what's happening is RT, two members of RT somehow linked up with Lauren Chen and her husband who run this Tenant Media. Tenant Media Tim licensed his show to them. They didn't have production or anything control over it. So what happened is, when they went to Tim and Benny Johnson and Rubin and allegedly Southern and all these people, they hid the fact that Lauren hid the fact and her husband hid the fact allegedly that they were working with Russia. They presented an investor that was fake. It was really Russia behind it.
Okay.
So, but the problem that I have with this is Lauren Chen's not charged with anything. Her husband's not charged with anything. Tim's not. None of them are charged with anything. The only two people charged in there are the Russians that are in Russia. We don't have any extradition agreement with Russia. The whole point of doing the press conference is Russiagate. It's to attack and discredit Tim Pool and all that. There's no there here. Now, you can talk about that maybe they did some unsavory things with shell companies and all that. Well, they're not charged, so I don't know if they're Lauren Chen and her husband. I don't know if they're cooperating or what, or they're still under investigation, but they are not charged. So the whole thing was pomp and circumstance for the federal government to team up with the mainstream media. I turned on Morning Joe today. They led with it.
Oh, my God.
So they gave them ammo to discredit Tim Pool because he's got way more viewers than them.
Oh, they sure do.
And so it's pure fascism. That's what's happening here. And the only check and balance in our system to stop this is state power. A state saying, we're going to secede from the union if you don't stop this nonsense. There's no other check and balance here. So we're in a really bad place. And
no, this is a mess. But I still go back to the original point with, let's say that they knew they were leasing their show and it was on RT. Well, first of all, I was a supporter of RT and RT America, and I used to watch their shows. So
they're better than ours.
I mean, honestly, sure. Tom Hartman's show was kind of how I really got into this in a heavy way in 2015. Like, that's really where it started. And listen, we love Tom. He's been on our show many times, but he has fallen in line completely. And it is unfortunate that that's what this has come to. But this is also an example of what you've been talking about.
The Russiagate stuff. It's
this is
old.
The censorship that has completely taken over the Democratic Party establishment, where they are fully on board with this. They don't care. If you don't agree with Tim Pool, don't listen to him. But instead, the attitude is, let's just take him off the air because he may say something that doesn't go on with with the message we're trying to promote.
But is that any different than suing the Greens to keep them off the ballot and doing what they did to RFK? It's the same thing. They just don't like. So it's just control, which is
And then they're draining,
very scary and fascist.
Yeah, they're draining resources. They have to pay these crazy lawyer fees. All of them got to get lawyered up. Yep. Tim today said he had the FBI coming through. The FBI said, oh, we think you're a victim. We want to talk to you. BS. They had Tim Pool up in the J6 committee before Congress switched over in the midterms. Did you remember that? I don't know if you saw that. They played a clip of Tim Pool reading the news during the J6 committee like he had done something wrong. He was literally reading the news. So once you saw that, you're like, the government is way out of control, and they would crush you, they would sue you, me. The only reason why, we're not big enough. That's the only reason.
Oh, absolutely. And he is, and he has quite a compound and quite, he's got, Well, and to me, that's also kind of what I feel like happened with Russell Brand. It's like when people get to a certain size, they're going to get taken down.
Or at least be put in a corner.
Well,
if you don't play along,
if you don't get in line.
Correct.
They'll when you get to a certain size, you basically get the offer that you can't refuse.
Listen, I've told you time and again, and I will repeat this until I'm blue in the face. I do not talk about other content creators. I do not care. If there's one content creator that is a pencil neck little bitch, it is without question David Pakman. I do not hide how I feel about him because it's so transparent who that guy is. And the biggest reason I've had it out for him for the longest time is because Pakman, who is as neoliberal as it gets, was one of the loudest people back in 2017 saying that we should invade Venezuela, replace Maduro, and get the oil. And as far as I'm concerned, that's as bad as it gets.
And they're still on that too. We're literally repeating the same thing. Like we are, it's like Groundhog Day with 2016.
Wasserman Schultz puts out a statement today talking about how we have to remove Maduro from office.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
This is a person who knows a thing or two about fucking with elections.
Well, that's what's so ironic. So Osiris, this woman, our congresswoman, actually held a press conference with the Congressman Mario Diaz-Balart, who's a Republican. And they held a joint press conference down in Miami, not in our district, by the way, down in Miami, together, basically in trying to oust Maduro, like in support of regime change. But the idea of my congresswoman questioning election integrity is insane. And she's sitting there criticizing Venezuelan election integrity. And I've listened to some things about it from people that have monitored it, like people that are election experts and whatever. Their elections are better than ours.
Yep, I've seen the same thing. The left is much better. The right is terrible. That's why I tell people you've got to follow people on both sides. Yeah, the right is totally off on this one.
Because if you look at some of the people, the journalists that have reported from the ground, and there's people like I've listened to for years, Ben Norton is someone who's a great person.
Craig Pasta. I don't know if Craig Pasta.
I know Pasta. Yeah. Like, this is like Venezuela is something that it's the war machine.
And the other thing I will say, remember, Pacman also encompasses exactly that type of person in the Democratic Party that is destroying this country. He fully supports Ukraine. He fully supports Israel. He can say all he wants about, we need a ceasefire. They're never going to push for this stuff. This is all about how do I keep making money? And if you've ever seen him, when he gets out of line, when he makes a statement that actually gets completely rebuked by his people and other people that come after him, he can't lose an ounce of support. He will do fundraisers. He is obsessed with being some type of, I don't know if he's angling for an MSNBC position, but whatever it is that he's doing,
he's licking boots.
This isn't about a diss track. This is just about being completely honest and transparent about these particular types. I see right through.
I don't watch them, so I have no idea.
I don't watch them either, but I know what he says because eventually it gets through the Twitter sphere.
A clip or
exactly, and people will say exactly what it's all about. And the scariest part of this, Osiris, is that he's got a huge channel.
Yeah, he doesn't get the views you would think for his followers, but yeah, he is big. He's big.
Well, let's also, and as Jen has pointed out, this is also the construct that happens within the complete fascist takeover of the merging of the state and corporate power, because he plays right into the vote blue no matter who crowd. So as a result, he'll get into the algorithm. And they will recommend his work and say that he's part of the team. He's doing what we need him to do, which is also the reason why
he's a good soldier.
Yeah, which is why somebody like Mark Levin, for example, on the other side, is going to get all of the traction being a complete lunatic Zionist conservative nut job and promotes Trump, but is really promoting the empire. So as a result, he's going to get a lot of that traction as well. And the people that are willing to speak truth to power the way that we have to speak truth to power, they're never going to catch the algorithm.
You know,
we caught it once.
I think Osiris, I'm telling you, we're like on the same team. Like, I honestly, these all the corporations that have bought all of this stuff, these are not our people. No. And at the end of the day, that's who they're serving as capital and empire. But, you know, I never really, I kind of had a feeling, Osiris, that you would be part of the revolution. I had a feeling you're going to be part of the revolution. Because you see, there's no other way around this.
Oh, I agree. I agree completely. So, yeah, we'll see how it goes. 2024, after 2024, it'll be a big kind of realignment. We'll see. But
I hope so. I hope so. And I think, honestly, I still think general strike, May Day 2028.
It's all about labor, baby. That's what we
I agree with you on that. I just haven't, we just got to get more traction for that, man. I think
and it's about building, you know what, how they did at the DNC, how all those different organizations, there were so many different organizations, and they all put Gaza front and center, and they put their own issues, like, you know, sort of that wasn't what they were there about that day. And that is what we need to do. So we need all of these groups to show up for the other stuff. So we need the anti-war people to show up for labor, vice versa. And we're starting to see it with the way labor is standing up. And I think that is how this is going to happen. And so, because labor is the driving force.
Yep. I like it.
Guys, make sure that you are subscribed to Middle MAGA. Make sure that you follow the links in the description. Osiris, it's always a pleasure to have you on. Obviously, we are in very tumultuous times, to say the least, whether in Florida or Colorado or just about everywhere in between. And so this is our coalition as we continue to build it. Because for us, it's not about labels. It's about labor versus shareholders. That's what this country has become. And either you're on the right side of that or you're not.
Yeah.
And appreciate you doing what
you do.
Thanks,
Osiris.
And we will be talking.
Thank you. Appreciate y'all.
Bye.
Anytime,
Peace.
Fuck you.
I am
Always a fun
literally
conversation.
sitting here listening to the ice maker. This is ridiculous.
We are in no way, shape, or form a supporter of Turning Point USA. It is a corporate-funded organization led by Charlie Kirk.
Okay, I can't stand him. Don't make me watch Charlie Kirk.
But if you want to see how there is a definitive shift in this country when it comes to the issues that actually matter, this is a short that will really show you just how serious an issue is, like housing. And the answer that Charlie gives is probably going to surprise you.
What policy do you support to make it easier for young people to buy homes?
Get rid of BlackRock purchasing a bunch of homes and renting them back to us?
Facts.
This is Charlie Kirk making this statement.
That is just another sign. Again, I feel like we're reliving 2016. The right is appealing to the populist statement,
Working
like
class.
well, and just the populist message. The right is co-opting the populist message. If he's saying that, then it's labor is going to the right.
And whether he means it or not, labor is going to go somewhere. It's going to go somewhere. It may not go where you want it to go, but it's definitely not going in the Democratic Party anymore.
No.
That's not happening.
No.
Like I said, if you block out all the bullshit, if you block out the joy, hope and all the fluffy stuff that the Democratic establishment tries to sell other than a working class agenda, there is a significant amount of working people in this country who need to find a place to go. And one of the most critical, if not the most critical issue that has been bestowed upon us and will continue to grow as we go forward is housing. We know that was, look, if we had a year to run a campaign against Debbie Wasserman Schultz, that's all I would have talked about endlessly, because she's funded by who he just mentioned. That is why nothing changes down here. It's a significant part of it.
And the reality is she's one of many. She's one of many.
They get bought off. They don't say anything. They don't do anything. And Charlie Kirk comes out and says, yeah, we need to deal with this issue. You don't hear the Democrats ever. They didn't talk about anything at the convention.
Joy.
Hope.
We got to move forward. I'm with her.
This is what matters. Keep going.
Okay, so like seize their assets?
Not seize their assets. Make it illegal that asset managers over $500 billion can't buy single family homes.
Okay, I really agree with that. That's actually that's great.
Thank you. Yeah. It's a super simple policy fix.
My son works for the man. I have to get that out there. It's so unfortunate.
And it is a simple policy fix, because you don't need Blackstone, Starwood, State Street, Vanguard. I can keep going, but these corporate landlords, including Canadian Socialist, I believe one of the mega corporations is actually based out of Toronto.
Doesn't surprise me.
And they are buying up people's ability to have a future, to build for retirement. They're taking it away.
Well, the goal is, and I do believe that this is the goal of capital and empire at the
serfs class.
The idea is that it's going to be like where there were lords and they owned all the property, and the serfs had to work in order to maintain a place to live in the lord's, vicinity. That's what we're having. We're going to have an entire class of people that it's not just even renters. It's basically going to be like indentured servitude.
Oh, yeah.
And that's where this is headed, because I don't see how people are going to be able to afford to live.
No, Charlie, for all of his flaws, and he's got a lot of them, even though he looks like a character out of Dick Tracy. Sorry, I had to put that out there. Sorry.
I don't know that, but
all kidding aside,
I feel like we're having an entire episode talking about, we've just been praising Candace Owens and Charlie Kirk. We're having a situation here. I am not switching over.
Which again goes to show you that this is what happens when you have an independent streak. It isn't about a side, it's about the issue. And if the issue is correct, as it seems that our chat and people overall agree with, this is the correct path. This is what needs to happen. And I don't care who is in the group, if you will, or who's at the table.
I don't care if they're red or blue. It doesn't matter.
Just make sure that you're on the right side of the non-corporate labor agenda.
If you are, right, then it's good.
Then it's good.
But I really feel like this is really interesting that we had like an episode with Candace Owens and Charlie Kirk.
We'll finish it.
If you have assets under management over 500 billion or 100 billion, you should not be in the single family home business, period.
Okay.
And that's artificially boosting housing prices across the country. I believe home ownership is a moral good for all humans.
Jesus, why does it take Charlie Kirk to say this?
I'm telling you, they are totally going to capture the populist movement. They are capturing the populist movement. And the Democrats are just sitting there like, duh.
You tell me how Vice President Harris can't make a statement like this.
Well,
how is it that she avoids going on any media?
We know, because she can't. They got very expensive. Their donors have a lot to say. Again, she's Team Clinton.
You're right. Sometimes you just have to forget who the messenger is.
I know. But that's part of what we're trying to do here is get rid of the labels and get rid of the teams, because that is not serving us. If I can find things that I agree with somebody like Charlie Kirk in terms of stopping corporate predatory home ownership and taking over the country, I would be happy to work with him to fight for that legislation. I'd be happy to work with someone like Candace Owens if she's wanting to stop funding Israel. Thank you, Mark J.
Mark, I don't know if we're changing the world.
You know what? We are for some people.
Oh, that's good. I'll take it.
You are when you're changing people's perceptions and educating them.
Well, I would definitely say that if I could pick the type of populist thought processes in terms of, who I would have as part of that coalition, it's the Bernie populist movement, it's the Ron Paul populist movement, and I'll even throw the Thomas Massey populist movement.
It's just working people. It's working people, regardless of their religion and their personal social values. We need to stop worrying about that. And really, it's really a both sides problem. The Democrats fundraise off of fear mongering of it, and the Republicans fundraise off of fear mongering about whatever it is. So whether it's the drag queens or the immigrants, and then the Democrats fundraise off of fear of the Republicans.
You've got an ice making situation going on. It's just so funny.
That is exactly what I've been saying. We are reliving 2016 like Groundhog Day, except insert Kamala for Hillary. And we will see the same result.
And the thing that I think people tend to forget about what happened in 2016,
and I'm voting the same,
is that
not with them.
The polling was exceptionally favorable to Clinton in 2016. And the other thing that you have to remember that still does not get talked about enough, there is a silent Trump voter out there
absolutely
who does not want you to know that they're supporting Trump.
1000%.
They will not. They won't even respond to a poll because they're like, well, you know who I am. You know where I live. I don't want you to know that.
Not just that, but they don't necessarily even want to say it out loud. But the reality is that's true. There is definitely a silent Trump vote. And I assure you, there is no silent Kamala vote.
Not
just like there wasn't a silent Biden vote.
Yeah,
there is no, there's no there. There's no base. All they have are the vote blue, no matter who's, and a handful of people that care about, basically culture war crap. That's it. There is no excitement for her. She has no policy. And who brought up Tim Black, because by the way, Tim Black, if you guys don't follow Tim Black, he really is the person who I think best captures how I feel about Kamala, about the culture crap, about what should be important, about how we discount ADOS, American descendants of slaves, Black Americans, how they get kind of pushed to the back every single time with every other vulnerable group of people. So he's really a great sounding board for that. But Kamala is not it's not the answer. See, that's the thing. I don't necessarily know what the answer is, but I know it ain't her. That I know for sure. She is not the answer.
And like I said,
look, General Strike.
Well, I thought you would have noticed that.
No, but that's
General
awesome.
With a J.
Well, that's the point. That's very smart, actually. We should do a General Strike
with a J.
With a J. Well,
that way they can't accuse us.
Well, no, but the only thing is it almost seems like it's not about me. It's not like a self-important thing, but yeah, I would love to have that. I am ready. I was inspired by the yellow vests. When we saw that in France, I think that
And here's the thing, Battlefield. I do think that Governor Walz has done some good things
I do too.
In Minnesota.
I do too.
But I also think that he fell under the trap that has become the hallmark in many ways of the Democratic Party and the Democratic Party establishment as a whole. They have become the party of government overreach and censorship. And the things that they did, particularly during COVID, which was completely insane, is
I don't know how he was up there with that. Was it?
He was a lockdown guy.
Okay.
And so that's a problem.
The George Floyd thing I do know about.
But I do, and he handled George Floyd terribly. And so but I also think
I prefer him to her.
That even something is amazing. We're living in a country where we have to praise a governor who decided to give free school lunch to underprivileged kids at the state school level in the state of Minnesota, that he legalized cannabis, that he has.
It's a low bar.
It is. But in terms of the best governors in the country, yeah, Walz is definitely up there. And that's not saying a lot.
Well, right. One, we have a low bar. And the other thing is this. He's a VP.
Yeah.
So you think about how important she's been. So now that's going to be his job. And just because, and yeah, that's not enough. It's just not enough. And again, at the end of the day, I'm a single issue voter now.
Esme says ADOS. What's that?
They don't, let me tell you that it's not one group. It just stands for, I mean, you might be thinking of like one official group. I just mean Black Americans. And I do know that there is animosity between Black Americans and Black immigrants. Absolutely.
Oh,
and absolutely. That is real. And I would also say that a lot of the Haitians that I have met and that I do know here and that are involved politically really are completely do not give a crap about reparations, don't like the idea of reparations because they know it's not about them. So I will not, honestly, all of these groups that are very insulated often have things like that, but we're all just going to need to get over that crap.
Yes, but no. I think there's here's the thing. The fact that Trump came out and endorsed Amendment 3, now I think it will definitely.
I think it will. And I also think he basically, in not so many words, has endorsed
Ron DeSantis.
Well, no, but I think in not so many words, he's endorsed Amendment 4 as well.
Yes.
He didn't specifically say, but he definitely said that the 6-week ban is not acceptable.
And the truth is that that's what he really thinks.
And I do think he will vote for it, to be honest with you. Yeah. I think he'll vote for 3 and 4 because at the end of the day, I don't think he's hardline on either of those.
Trump
things.
Absolutely knows the score. The problem is that he is knee deep. When you take $100 million from one of the most powerful oligarchs in the world, you are going to walk that. You're going to walk on the string. You're going to dance on that string, and he's doing it.
It's gross.
It is.
It's gross.
But as Jen has pointed out many times, Zionism will win in the short term, but in the long term, they're going to lose everything.
No, they're losing. They're losing.
They don't know it yet.
The rest of us do, though.
The fact that a brazen, scrawny, balding jackoff can get on a podcast and say, we should kill them all. You may not pay for that now, but you're going to pay for that completely in the long run. That's what's coming. Thank you, Phil Blair. Look at Bob Follett. Yes, Bob LaFollette, who was a senator, won as a socialist in the state of Wisconsin. If there is one state that is considered a swing state that I still feel comfortable saying that Kamala will ultimately win, it's Wisconsin. Because I think Wisconsin, because of undoing the gerrymandering, and because I think that state and its adjacency to Minnesota is going to make a big difference in the outcome. Now, I still agree with Jen that I think the state that's going to ultimately be Kamala's undoing, and maybe rightfully so, is Michigan.
And you know what?
And in the part of the state,
poetic justice,
and in the part of the state where they cannot lose any ground when it comes to getting out the vote, is where Rashida Tlaib is a congresswoman. And she is not going to be out there touting them at all. So that's going to play a role. I believe that. I also would like to see Congresswoman Slotnick not make it to Capitol Hill as a senator, because we don't need any more CIA spooks going up the ladder in politics. No. So 8 years before the New Deal coalition. Listen, think about the amazing work that Eugene Debs did as a socialist, how that played a significant role in the policies that ultimately landed on FDR's desk that he passed. We need to be able to create that movement. That's why FDR always said, FDR wasn't a progressive. No, he just said, make me do it.
He had no interest. His only interest was in trying to save capital.
I agree. He
needed to preserve the capital class. He knew that the natives were getting restless and were going to come for them. And so he needed to do something to be able to preserve the capitalist class. And the only way to do that was to calm the natives.
This has definitely been a lively conversation. Good to be back in the saddle. You guys are that's a fair point, Esme. Look, it's not even a question of reparations. It's a question of, do we have an economic and political system that works for all?
Well, yeah, no, but again, it's all based on what people know, what their understanding is, what their life experience has been. And between those different groups of people, depending on where they are in the country, there's different levels of animosity.
Yes.
It's just the way it is.
Again, when people try to take away this whole concept of tribalism, look at why the red and blue factions of politics is so popular. Because when people say, oh, you're a Democrat, I'm a Democrat too. Looks like we're family now. That's how they look at it. And that's a sick thing. It's sick. It's again, individuals are resourceful. Groups are dangerous. And the bigger the group, the worse it gets, because groupthink takes over and then no one can think for themselves. And that's how you can create different types of cult behavior. You have the cult behavior that falls under one demagogue like a Trump, and then you have one that falls under the demagogue of the blue no matter who crowd.
Which is just basically intellectual sanctimonious elitism.
And it doesn't matter if it's Kamala. It could be Buttigieg. It could be it could be Shapiro. It could be any of them. They just have to put them up and say, "Hey, support that person."
It's just,
and they will.
Well, yeah,
and
clearly.
They will.
Clearly, we didn't even have a primary.
Yep.
Yeah. No, this is, to me, we're going to get the same result.
I agree. 72 Marshflower, Esme.
But I get to vote for Dr. Cornel West.
Say it, sister.
I'm just like, that's really
Donald
cool
James,
to me.
Jimmy Zimzam, Tony D, Battlefield 5. So poor I sell plasma. Let me tell you, I sold plasma before. I've had to sell.
That's horrible.
I know, it was painful too, but hey, it paid a few bucks. You know, I've lived desperate. Philip Blair, yes but no. Nelson Ortega.
I only did in college, so it doesn't really count.
Kat Negrita. Hey, everything counts. Kat Negrita, Ray J, Canadian Socialist. Let's see. Been a lively chat tonight. You guys have been great. And some new people too.
We got new people.
Yes.
Guys, make sure you hit the like button. It really helps. Make sure you subscribe.
Osiris checking in at Middle MAGA. Thank you for checking in. And as soon as we go off the air, make sure that you go to the live stream and make a comment.
It's helpful.
It definitely makes a difference.
It's helpful.
Chris Garrett, thank you for checking in.
I want to find out what kind of
Smashed
microphone.
It to smithereens.
What kind of microphone Jordan and Tim seem to have a very.
I think we need to improve our microphone.
We're working on a couple of different things.
We're going to change the setup soon.
Yeah.
How soon?
I'm waiting for you and Jason to figure out how to redo this studio, because I am not doing the manual labor portion of this.
Miss Chewy says with her Sophie lookalike Poochie Poo. Thank you for checking in this evening. I am more than happy to do the manual.
Well, that's what has to happen, is that people that want to do the labor need to actually clean out this. This needs to be cleaned out and dealt with, and Jason needs to deal with it. And that's on him. And I'm tired of nagging him. You want to nag at him, you nag at him.
Tony D, Arlene Chambers, Upstate Raider, and
see, what is
Bygone Dem Voter.
What do you make of?
I mean, look,
it has to happen. I like the upside down. The upside down donkey is very.
There's going to be a lot of that going around, as I think we can all agree.
It should. I want them to be like, the idea is for them, especially in Florida, to bleed so many members and bleed so many people that they just cease to exist, that they just don't have anybody, and they have no money and no fundraising capability. And that's what I really want
that is really
happen.
the thing.
And they're close. Let me tell you, in Florida, they can't raise money for shit.
And listen, we love you, John Nichols of the Nation, but please stop saying that Florida's in play. Like, please stop. And Josie Justice, they say you may be going through some things like the mafia.
Well, one thing I can tell you about this channel, it's definitely on the right side of history.
I'm trying.
So make sure you support this great podcast.
We try.
Carla Harrington, and yes, she did shred that rabbi. He shouldn't even be. He should just be called Shmuley. Just call him Shmuley. He doesn't deserve the moniker of being douchely.
Rabbi douchely.
Yeah, do not even give him the dignity of being called a rabbi.
Well, he's an embarrassment. He's an embarrassment. But yet, unfortunately, he does represent a certain segment of the population.
Which is, again, unfortunate.
Oh.
Salma Shalom and David Hunter. You guys have been great. I hope you enjoyed the show. What's happened to the Dems in Florida, there's a lot of things that have happened. But honestly, if we're being completely honest, Debbie Wasserman Schultz is what happened to the Dems in Florida.
It's a huge part of it. Yeah. But really, it's also a matter of because that the state just has not that much Democratic presence. It just doesn't. So it's inherently weak.
Somebody who was a delegate, who was based in the I-4 corridor, said in confidence that Wasserman Schultz is basically dragging the party into oblivion, is what she's doing.
Yeah. She's taking it down.
If you're happy with that, all of you.
But what I'd like to see is just more and more people. The truth is, and they're so stupid, the Dems in Florida are so stupid. They actually prioritized for years. All they do is register voters. And yet they were majority of voters they were registering weren't registering as Democrats. So basically the Florida Democratic and then Republicans and then Democrats. So basically the Florida party spent most of its time registering non-Democratic voters.
You see, here's the thing, Donald. That's not the case. And as I've pointed out time and again, there were multiple misfires on this campaign, not the least of which is you need a lot of money and infrastructure, and she rules by force.
And the bottom line is that most people don't care down here. They just don't. They don't care and they don't vote.
And the unfortunate reality, and thank you, Jimmy Zimzam, and I hope you all enjoyed it tonight. But the truth is, and this is the thing that we learned from the campaign, the people who do vote and always vote consistently are people that do not have problems.
And those are her people.
They are. And they all live in gated communities. And let me tell you, the real estate in South Broward, especially Southwest Broward County, where if you look at the map of where people vote in this particular district, a significant portion of them live in gated communities. And that's a problem.
And but honestly, the way that this is going to work is the Dems are just going to become more and more irrelevant. And eventually this district just won't be blue. And that's what's going to happen.
Likely.
Most of the country. And so she'll end up being gone, but it will be because the district just isn't blue because the Democrats are dead. And I actually am happy with that. I want that. I would love to facilitate that because our state party and our local, these people are so pathetic.
I've got into a number of the gated communities. And of course, after I had a couple of run-ins with police, because people actually call the cops for you knocking on doors trying to bring the democratic process to them.
But you're not being genuine about
so after the fact, I mean, listen, there was a neighborhood that I knocked on that had open gates.
It doesn't matter. They had gates. So just because the gate was it was probably broken and so it was left open and so you went in. It's a gated community. There's probably a sign that says no soliciting. And I don't agree that that's what we should be doing.
And therein lies the problem because most of these neighborhoods are getting absolutely destroyed with the reassessments, with the insurance hikes. All of these things are related to the fact that corporate housing takeover of South Florida and a lot of other places, but especially down here, has become a crisis of epic proportions. And for the people that are in this district, and frankly, there's tens of thousands of them that should be voting, that could kick Wasserman Schultz out of office, but they don't want to be involved in the electoral process. They don't believe in voting. They do not believe in it anymore.
I can't say as I blame them.
The voting in this primary was absolutely despicably low.
But even if it isn't, look at the studies that have shown, we've talked about this with Steve before on the show, the amount of people in this country whose will is actually seen by the policy in this country is 0.01% of the people. Mm-hmm. So the electoral process and that whole thing, it really doesn't do anything. The people that are struggling, they're going to be struggling either way. The only people that benefit from electoral politics, it's sort of like the stock market. It's just the rich people because they're able to wield the power amongst those people to get certain things and to make more money. Correct. But for regular people, just like the stock market, electoral politics doesn't do anything for you. So it doesn't really matter.
I concur. So thank you all. Smash that like button. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you leave a comment after we finish our live, which will be in a second. And also, if you are so inclined, please go over to patreon.com. patreon.com/generational change. As you know, for as little as $5 a month, you become a supporter of our small but mighty channel. If you believe in the mission that we're trying to fight for here, which of course was emblematic on our 2 congressional runs, but also in terms of what we're fighting for, which is transforming politics into service, and we will continue to evolve going forward. And if you want to help us evolve our studio a little bit more, any support that you can provide,
of course,
will be tremendously appreciated.
Yeah.
Thank you all. We'll see you Monday.